with the millions.
It's that world heavyweight flow. Championship belt wrapped around my waist, yo. I got that Ric Flair figure four. Slam you on the pavement, that's why they call me Street Pro. Create heat on beat flow. Like Jordan after the second time he three-peated, folks. Get ready, set, let's go. Fight toe to toe, release the flow created by this mic pro. Lights, camera, get low. Action packed, back to back. In fact, this monster will grow. Y'all better let him know. Man with the master plan, and you have no need to know. You came prepared, now get ready for the show.
Sports Professor. Oh,
shit. Yo, what up, friends? You know what it is. Ballin' Buds back at it again another week with the professors. Semanalmente. And I am your host, Omar, the Professor Fonseca, and I so appreciate you turning in today. Please make sure you subscribe to Ballin' Buds, BALLANDBUDS, and as well, please make sure you hit that like button if you are watching now live or on the replay. Free to you, invaluable to us. That being said, today we're going to hit just the news. We'll do sports. I got a special guest coming on Wednesday. Buddy of mine who's big in the streaming world now and trying to get his name out there. I'm going to bring him on. We're going to talk some sports and entertainment on Wednesday. But today there was so much news going on in the world. Everything that happened in the United States. Israel and Iran popped off this weekend. So I am going to give you all the updates on everything. So thank y'all for tuning in. As always, I really appreciate y'all always joining me on the live set every week. I had to really quick because last week I talked about Bonnaroo and CMA Fest because I was waiting for pictures to come out of the Puerto Rican Day Parade. I am Puerto Rican, so I am a veteran as well, but as a proud American, I also am a proud Puerto Rican. So they had the Puerto Rican Day Parade last weekend. I was waiting for some photos to come out before I actually went ahead and talked about it on the show. So last week, that's why I talked about Bonnaroo and the CMA Fest, which, by the way, CMA Fest was awesome. Great time. City was just energetic. It was so just meeting people from all over the world. It was an amazing time. That's all I can say. CMA Fest always does it well in Nashville. So that was my 7th one. We'll make it 8 next year, but always a great time. Also getting to meet a lot of people at the CMA Fanfare and everything like that was great. Bonnaroo, on the other hand, unfortunately, we really hyped it up, and I felt so bad for all my friends that went because I had a lot of friends that actually tried to attend this year. Unfortunately, Bonnaroo only had one night as they were rained out. Unfortunately, a concert like that, a festival of sorts, you don't want to cancel, and they really didn't. I'm sure they feel, horrible when they have to. Not only do they have to issue refunds, but obviously they spend all year putting together a concert of that magnitude. And so having 3 of the days canceled and only having your first day, which featured Luke Combs, who put on an amazing set. If you watch the replay, really, really good set there. And as well, Insane Clown Posse, old school, was there Thursday night, and some other artists. So if you were lucky enough to see that, great. But it got rained out. So again, sucks for a lot of people that go to that sort of thing. People travel from distances. I know when I first went to my Bonnaroo back in 2016, 2017, we came all the way from Virginia. So that was a long trek. It was like a 12-hour drive or something. That was great because we were with our friends on a caravan of a few cars or whatever, but still, it's a long drive. So anyways, that being said, that's why I didn't talk about the Puerto Rican Day Parade last week, but I did want to bring it up because it is my heritage, and I did want to show some photos from the New York Daily News. So really quick, I'm just going to pop some of those up and show y'all a little of the goodness that is that Puerto Rican heritage. Always flying La Bandera, the flag. But we got our campeon here, boxer Amanda Serrano. We talk about her all the time here on this show, especially Club D's Combat Sports. She is one of our favorites. There being one of the parade heads, and then just very colorful, right? Very colorful crowd, a lot of dancing, a lot of showmanship, a lot of costumes, obviously the flags and everything. It's just the culture and the heritage. Look at that. craziness. So, Wepa, shout out, Wepa to my Puerto Rican family out there. Just wanted to show some of those pictures, and I didn't want anybody to think I forgot about it. I just wanted to wait till I got some really good pictures, and I showed that. That's why I'm wearing my Puerto Rican tie and my Three Kings hat also as well. Happy Solemnity of the Trinity. Shout out to all you Catholics and or Christians out there. All right, cool. I'm going to take that off, though, because it wasn't properly tied. I was doing the new way that people do ties when you don't actually have them tied, because I don't actually wear ties that often anyways, and I didn't feel like tying it. So there we go. That was just for the opener. Now I look a little more casual. Look at that. All right, let's get into the news. First of all, police have caught the alleged shooter. So yes, what am I talking about? Over the weekend, there were some lawmakers targeted in Minnesota. It prompted a 2-day manhunt. Now, police have caught the alleged shooter, 57-year-old Vance Luther Bolter, who impersonated a police officer and showed up at multiple lawmakers' houses, including fatally shooting Representative Melissa Hortman and her husband. May they please rest in peace. After this horrible tragedy. This happened in Brooklyn Park, Minnesota at 2 a.m. on Saturday, but he was also suspected of being the gunman that wounded State Senator John Hoffman and his wife in nearby Champlin. They thankfully survived the attack and had surgery to fix up their wounds and get them back to good health. So we are very happy that that is the case for them. But it is pretty crazy that we have these people in this world that go around with notebooks of 70 people they want to kill. I was thinking to myself how much energy that has to take just to even have the list, but then to actually go around and do it, it's just way too much. So you've got to really be in a place that you're just not thinking coherently or logically anymore. That being said, there was a notebook found with roughly 70 potential targets on it. Now, this is the weird part about it, because both sides are claiming it was a political attack or, whatever they usually do. But this is the weird part about it. The lawmakers included Democratic lawmakers. A lot of them were pro-choice, in favor of abortion access. But they also found flyers for anti-Trump protests in his car. So I'm assuming logically, and say not to make an ass out of yourself by assuming, so I'm guessing logically that he just hated all politicians. Not the same way that I do. I do it more facetiously. They are all crooks, snakes, and scum, as my friend Francis Long would say. But I don't believe that anybody deserves to have their life taken for anything, and especially not trying to serve the public. So this guy was obviously in a state that was not logical anymore, in a state that was not lending him to be able to think and process what he should actually be doing or what is right in the community. The gunman fled on foot after exchanging gunfire with the officers, but he left behind the car that had the the rifles and the flyers, the anti-Trump flyers. So we will see, keep you updated on this show, obviously, as we get more. This just happened over the weekend. He was just caught yesterday. So again, we'll see what happens with this. Obviously, they are going to, what they said on the news earlier today was that they were going to charge him with the death penalty. So I figured it would at the very least be life. So, I mean, you can't do those sorts of things and expect that you're going to get anything less than that. Moving on, other news. President Donald Trump, this all happened over the weekend, y'all. This was crazy. It just went from one thing to the other. We remember we talked about last week how the protests had started in LA, in Los Angeles. Well, now it was moving across the country, and it was turning into just a weekend of explosive, just for lack of a better word, different stories coming out from all of the different angles. So let's start with first continuing on the protests from what they had last week. They also nationwide, it was started by a bunch of different organizations, including the ACLU and labor unions, progressive advocacy groups, things like that, that organized this No Kings counter programming to what President Donald Trump had planned for the Flag Day celebration, or the Army's 250th birthday, which we will get into in just a moment. But the juxtaposition here, y'all, it was like just looking at this from a neutral point of view and seeing both sides of this. And it's just the dichotomy of the situation that we had at hand was just very, very, very stunning, to be completely honest. So the weekend progressed. Saturday, it started out, right? They have the parade, which started early in the afternoon for the Army. So the Army's 250th birthday celebration. Obviously, I'm a veteran, so shout out and salute for 250 great years to the Army. I'm all for celebrating the military, promoting the military. But as I mentioned on this program last week, I don't believe $45 million was necessary to be able to do this, nor do I believe we need to really kind of skim down to these sorts of levels here. I believe everyone knows around the world that we have the most powerful military. I don't think we need to flaunt and do things like this. This is usually only done in communist countries. And I think we're better than that. But needless to say, I am glad we promoted the military to a larger segment of the population. Obviously, as a veteran, I am pro-military. And as I mentioned last week, I believe every person who turns 18 should either have to go to college for 2 years, like community college, they should have to go to the military, or they should have to go to some sort of like trade school, something that's going to make you be progressive and help out society in the future. So anyways, that was happening on one side, which, yes, we talked about it here as well last week, could have been construed as, President Donald Trump's celebration for his own 79th birthday. We're not going to say that here, but I did say last week I thought he should have just waited and had this maybe on July 4th. It would have looked a lot less suspect, but it is what it is. It went off as was expected. There were no issues, which is great. But around the country, there was an uprising due to not just the ICE raids, not just the parade, but also as described on the website, which I read after I heard it was called the No Kings. I went and read up about it. So as objectively situated as they tried to make themselves, it was people that were against the policies of Donald Trump. Now, obviously, a lot of these people are going to be on the left. They're going to be liberal. There are some conservatives and some people on the right who are upset with Donald Trump. And we talked about this survey they had, which said that a lot of the Republicans and conservatives that supported, well, not a lot, but at least 20, up to 20% was what the survey had, is 60-40, had decreased in their support for the things that, or for the way that things were carried out. So they agreed with the policies before, but didn't necessarily agree now that it's happening. So while most, yes, probably would have been on the left, liberals on this No Kings parade, there were definitely people on the right as well. I saw interviews with them and stuff like that as well. So people who just were protesting the way these policies are put in place, especially the mass deportation. And so the mass deportation has continued, with these ICE raids that happened last week in LA and started the protest, which then obviously tensions grew with the National Guard being brought in, the Marines being pre-deployed. We talked about all of that last week. It did come to a head in LA, some other couple cities here and there. For the most part, most of the protests were completely peaceful. I actually went and checked out the Nashville one. It was completely peaceful and was no violence or anything like that. So It was pretty cool to see in action a protest and see how people actually organize to be able to fight for something they believe in, whether you believe in that or not. That being said, the ICE raids have caused a lot of commotion since being uh, deployed, for lack of a better word, on the country. And I mentioned this, I've been screaming this at the top of my lungs since this was announced. But these mass deportations were going to cause issues once you start taking um, innocent, hardworking immigrants, whether here illegally or legally, uh, out of the workforce, out of the economy. Not only do you hurt the economy, but then you hurt those businesses, those workforces around the country. Now, uh, obviously, some people on the right have shied away from that, seeing what has happened, including his own President Donald Trump's own agricultural secretary, Brooke Rollins, who spoke with President Trump over the weekend and told him, look, we need to take this immigration policy back from farm workers, from restaurants, things like this. So, I mean, I'm not going to necessarily go ahead and say, you know, whatever, but what I will say is this, that in since Donald Trump started his administration and since he started enacting all these policies, all these tariffs, all these executive actions, so on and so forth, most of the time, and I would love to get a percentage on this, he has backtracked. He has either not implemented it, he has reversed it, he has decreased the magnitude of whatever it was. And it does seem a lot of times like he is going back on his word. And so this time really, really surprised me because I did not think he was going to go back on his word when it came to deportation. But he actually came out and said out of his mouth, well, I guess on social media technically, that his aggressive policy on immigration is taking good longtime workers away from farms and they are impossible to replace. Duh. Yes, that's what I've been saying forever. What a lot of economists have been saying for a long time. When you take people out of the economy, out of the workforce, you are going to deplete and decrease and hurt the economy. When you take these good workers from businesses, whether illegal or legal, they're still good, innocent people working hard for these businesses. You're going to hurt those businesses, which are usually American businesses. So now a lot of American business owners, a lot of Trump supporters as well, are just like, hey, you're really hurting our business now. I mean, think about when you go to a hotel. Probably 90% of the workers at a hotel are going to probably be of immigrant descent. Let's just be completely honest. Unless you live in a very rural community, like maybe out here in Tennessee, if you go a little further out, probably not. But for the most part, anywhere else, probably so. So when you think about that magnitude of people being taken out of the economy at once, it really does hurt not only the economy as a whole, but the businesses that support that economy, which are American owned businesses. So I was completely shocked. I was like, well, he's gone back on a lot of things. He's never going to go back on this deportation thing. He really doesn't want immigrants here at all. But apparently, that is even something that he has decided to go back on, and now is saying that he doesn't want them to now target the hospitality industry or the farming or agricultural industry. So now you look at it like, okay, so if we're going every which way the wind blows, when do we actually have a stable policy that's actually going to try to make this country better? I, again, am on neither side of the aisle. I do not like either party. I don't care about politicians. I'm here to give you the neutral news. But I'm asking a good question here. When do we actually have any progression in our country if we don't have stability in the policies put in place? Now, I'm not saying that I agree with all of his policies or any of his policies. It's not for you to know or want to know. I do agree with some of them. But whether you agree, you don't agree, the if you don't have stability, if you don't keep at one pointing of the mast, talking about shipping and boating, then you're just you're just navigating from right to left. You're just swimming along. You're just going wherever the wind blows. You're just trying to make whoever at that point happy. And what that does is it brings a lot of instability to the nation. It causes a lot of things on our economy. It causes a lot of things on our everything, jobs, schools, everything that can come into play when you do that. Now listen to this, because I bring you the numbers here. So they advocated. The agricultural secretary I told you about earlier, she advocated because of the threats to U.S. food supply. An estimated 42% of hired crop workers, more than almost 500,000 people, put it that way, for a give you a better number there. Almost 500,000 crop workers lack legal working authorization. Now, if you're telling me there's 500,000 Americans willing to go out on the farm right now and replace them, I would tell you I've got a nice beach house property to sell you here in Nashville. Because that's not happening. Not happening. And would take a long time to do anyways, even if you forced it to happen. Which, yeah, you could force it. You could make people that had no jobs, I guess, go. Just like you could draft people into America. I guess you could. But I don't foresee that happening. And it would take a very long time to fill those spots. That's a lot of people. Figures exceed 1.1 million when you include hospitality workers, maids, cooks, restaurants, all of our back of house staff. Salute. They do the hardest work in the restaurants. I used to work front of house. You thought I was working back of house? Nah, I don't want that work. I worked as a dishwasher for like a little while, and I was like, I can't do this. Nope, not for me. And that's how Americans think about these jobs. I know, because that's how I feel, because I'm an American. And I know how lazy America is. And I know I don't want to do construction. I don't want to do anything with my hands. I don't like manual labor. I like sitting behind a computer. And I'm not going to be mad that I'm using my smarts. So I don't blame other people for not wanting to do it either. There are jobs that people don't want to do, and also jobs that don't pay a lot. If I can get paid a lot of money to sit here on a computer and talk to you, why would I go do that? Right? So we just got to think about how it's actually affecting us as a whole. Whether or not you support Donald Trump or his policies, we've got to understand that if we do not have stability, and if we keep going up and down and left and right, we are going to end up even further back than we have been in a long, long time. So, again, whatever that means is what it means now in terms of, we've got to give, if the goal was to stop immigration from coming in, you've got to hand it to Trump. Border encounters are down 175% year over year, from 180,000 average back in April to 12,000 average now. That's substantial. That's very substantial. You cannot say that it's not. But keeping people out that are already out is a lot different than getting rid of the hardworking, innocent people that are already here, that already support the economy, that already pay into Social Security, that already pay into Medicaid, Medicare, taxes. They pay into taxes and don't even get back. They're giving us money. They're giving more money to the country than the country's giving to them. Put it that way. Especially because they get paid shit wages too. I'm just giving you the truth. I'm just spitting knowledge to y'all. That's all. That's all I'm doing. I'm just here to give you the knowledge. You do what you want with it. That being said, there is new ICE guidance, though, now, after all of that. The new ICE guidance, again, says that President Donald Trump would now like to focus on sanctuary, read Democrat cities. Obviously, there are no sanctuary Republican cities that I know of. I could be wrong on that, but I doubt it. Anyways, he's including Los Angeles, Chicago, New York. He also told them, though, to pause the raids at farms, restaurants, hotels, and meatpacking plants. And told to end arrest of non-criminals. So now he's ending the arrest of non-criminals as well. So, that's what everybody thought he was doing at first, was just the criminals. And he got so far into it because, again, just the same things that have been happening throughout the administration, cutting with a broad swath instead of a scalpel is causing these issues to come into play. Yeah, it is what it is. Hit that like button if you're watching. And yes, please make sure you subscribe to Ball and Buds, BALLANDBUDS. There's a handy QR code up there up top. You can find our link tree and find the YouTube, the Instagram, the audio podcast, and so much more. I appreciate y'all tuning in. On to world news. Before we get into Israel and Iran, which we're about to talk about, Donald Trump actually traveled out for the G7, the Group of Seven. It's the 50th anniversary of the Group of Seven summit. It's the first international meeting with major international leaders since the start of his second term. Over the 3-day summit, he and seven leaders of the world's 7 most advanced economies will tackle pressing economic challenges and escalating geopolitical crises, to include the Middle East, as I am about to talk about in one moment. So, President Donald Trump will be joined with the leaders from the United Kingdom, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, and the EU in Alberta, Canada. It makes me think of Chris Jericho. I don't know why. I just really do. This group's share of global GDP, or gross domestic product, has since dropped from 63% to 43%, and now omits China, India, and Russia, who was booted following their 2014 invasion of Ukraine. This was originated in 1975. The Group of Seven is an informal bloc of, again, the major non-communist nations to coordinate economic strategy. The agenda also includes the wars in Gaza and Israel, which we'll talk about in just a second, the wars with Ukraine and Russia, which we're talking about, the U.S. tariff policies, and so much more. Now, in a moment, we'll get to what has happened over the weekend with Israel and Iran. But one thing that we do know going into the Group of Seven meetings is that President Donald Trump has approved. Now, this is another thing I'm looking at with a little bit of a side eye at President Donald Trump for this one as well, because if you're trying to bring industries back to America, if your whole point of the tariffs were to make America a manufacturing industrial country again, which is fine if that's your goal, great. You want to make all American products, fine. It's going to cost you a lot more money. It's going to hurt the global economy. But hey, aside from that, let's take that out of it. The point was of most of the tariffs, or what he said they were, was to bring back America manufacturing. Well, then why is it that President Donald Trump then just approved Japan's company, Nippon Steel, to purchase almost, it's 15.9. I was going to just say almost 16 billion so I could avoid it, but now I said 59. Anyways, $15.9 billion purchase of U.S. steel. So if the point of putting the tariffs in place were to bring back manufacturing to the United States, why are we selling our steel manufacturing to Japan? If we tariffed Canada so much on their steel and wood industry as we did in order to be able to build more here, why would we sell that to Japan? Interesting. Now, again, I don't care either way. But if you're going to say that you are issuing these tariffs to bring back manufacturing to America, you then cannot turn around and sell the whole damn steel industry. That's a contradiction in itself, even if they say they are going to invest $11 billion more into U.S. projects, which most of the time, y'all, those investments rarely come to fruition. So just know that. Anyways, moving on. Into the more important news of the weekend, Israel and Iran have been trading bombs all weekend long. This is not good at all, as obviously Israel has their own nuclear capabilities. Iran, as we talked about in this program last week, are at 60%. It does not, 60% shy of 90% of complete enrichment of uranium for the nuclear bombs, but that only takes 6 weeks to do. So Iran could go dark for 6 weeks and completely become nuclear capable. This is not good for us. What happened? Israel fired an attack last week. Iran then responded to the attack. As of yesterday, hundreds of bombs and missiles have been dropped of these sorts. A lot of people injured, a lot of people dead. They don't even have full counts on both sides. It is said that fighter jets struck 10 Israeli, fighter jets struck 10 command centers in Tehran belonging to Iran's Quds Force, which is an elite arm of the IRGC, or colloquially, that stands for the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, that conducts the military and intelligence operations outside of Iran. At this time, we can say that it had Israeli Brigadier General Effie Defrin said, at this time, we can say we have achieved full aerial superiority over Tehran's skies. Tehran is the capital of Iran. That being said, Iran has come back, and the Commander General Reza Abazi told them that the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is a lunatic and in no position to withstand Iran's armed forces, and that Tehran has only revealed a fraction of its capabilities so far. Now, I am not going to go too deep into this subject because I cannot. But what I will say is that if Iran were nuclear capable already, I would be very worried. The fact that it would take them at least 3 more weeks, if they already started in the dark, from when I read that article that I gave to y'all last time, that would, I guess, now be 2 or 3 weeks. I get they've trained a long time for this. I get that they've trained to fight strictly the Israeli armed forces and none other. There's very, very little chance, a minuscule chance that Iran has against Israel unless they were nuclear capable. That's just all there is to it. Especially, but not even. They don't even need us, but especially because we would obviously have Israel's back if anything were to happen. In that case, which I'm actually surprised so far that they've let it go this far with Israel, but I think the government realizes that Israel kind of brought this on themselves with the blockade and the shortages of food and famine in Gaza and the repeated, probably unnecessary bombings after a while. I mean, again, hey, I'm not running the country, so, but what you do have to look at is this has to end before Iran can get nuclear capable, because then we have a really big problem. While they wouldn't be able to reach us, it still would be an issue with people in the Middle East. Like, they could reach a lot of places in the Middle East and Europe, that a lot of them being allies of ours. So the hope is that they will come to an agreement. President Trump obviously called for both sides to cease. But reportedly, now get this, 2 reports here I'm going to give you all, 2 insider reports. Reportedly, President Trump opposed a plan from Israel to assassinate Iran's supreme leader. Now, we have not verified those reports, but that is the report as of now. But also, reportedly today, Iran actually urged President Trump to talk to Israel about a possible ceasefire. So hopefully Iran was just being a little boastful, little bluster. And hopefully we'll realize that since they are not nuclear capable at this point in time, as far as we know at least, then they should come to an agreement because, again, very, very small, slim to none chance Iran's military would stand against Israel's. It's just how it is. That being said, this is affecting oil prices. Oil prices rose over 7% due to supply disruption concerns, and Iran is one of the world's top 10 oil producers. So we've got to watch out for that possibly harming us here in America. You may see increased gas prices into the future. So look for gas prices to go up. And as an update on Ukraine and Russia, as we do always, the ceasefire still has not come. President Volodymyr Zelensky from Ukraine has talked to President Donald Trump and said he was interested in a ceasefire, but President Vladimir Putin from Russia has not come around to those ideas at all. So we are not seeing an end there as well. This is causing a lot of issues in terms of famine and death and things like that, poverty and destruction in that side of the world, and it's sad. And a lot of innocent people are losing their lives. So hopefully they can come to some sort of agreement to get this stopped, and especially before nuclear things come into play. Because again, whether or not we are the strongest, and we are, and whether or not we have the most nuclear, which we do, that doesn't matter. We still don't want that to happen because it's just not good. It's called mutually assured destruction for a reason, because it truly is. Anyways, all right, that is your news. I know, short today. I'm thinking of going back to the when I had the program where it had all of it together. It seems like I had some more viewers, but I think it either is people want to see one or the other, and then so they're not ready. I don't know. Anyways, we'll figure it out. Short one today. I do have a special guest coming on Wednesday for my sports and entertainment. So that'll be Wednesday at 8 Eastern time. The Lion Reese, my brother, Boricua as well. He will be coming in and joining me. He's trying to get his streaming channel, his streaming game off the ground. And so I'm going to bring him in and we'll talk NBA, NHL finals. We'll talk baseball and all of the sports. We'll talk a little bit of Diddy trial as well, and some other things going on in the world. I appreciate it. Thank y'all for tuning in tonight. Oh, we got a late comment from my brother Amul. Thank you for tuning in, my friend. Why do you look like you're retired, bro? I do. I look like I'm about to go sit out in a cabana in Costa Rica. Pura vida. I actually had my other one on. I had the Puerto Rican Day festivities one on earlier, but the tie wasn't tied. So I invented this new way to tie a tie. And so it's just when you don't want to tie it. And so what you do is you just have it here like this, and it's still under the collar, right? And you can still see the main design of the tie, but then you just have it right here. Boom, look at that. And so when you're on camera, no one even knows. So then I had it with my Three Kings hat, which is very apropos for the Puerto Rican Day Festival. And that being said, now we are out of here. Thank you for tuning in, my brother. I appreciate you. We'll have you on here in a few weeks, just trying to get my streaming game back together. That being said, make sure you subscribe to Ball and Buds, BALLANDBUDS. Hit that QR code up at the top. That'll take you to our link tree. And as well, hit that like button, whether you're watching on live or the replay. I appreciate y'all tuning in today. Thank you so much. Y'all have a wonderful Tuesday. Be kind to each other. Be blessed. Go out and help somebody. And love the Omar way. Holla. 5,000.
He's with the millions.
It's that world heavyweight flow. Championship belt wrapped around my waist. Yo, I got that Ric Flair figure four. Slam you on the pavement, that's why they call me Street Pro. Create heat on beat flow. Like Jordan after the second time he three-peated. Folks, get ready, set, let's go. Fight toe to toe, release the flow created by this mic pro. Lights, camera, get low. Action packed, back to back. In fact, this monster will grow. Y'all better let him know. Man with the master plan, and you have no need to know. You can't